Picture this. Your alarm goes off at 6 a.m., not because your phone buzzed, because the milkman just left glass bottles on your doorstep, and the clink of them woke you up. You pick up the phone to call your friend. A woman's voice answers immediately. "Number, please?" You give her the number, and she physically connects wires on a switchboard to make your call go through. You head downtown for work. When you arrive at your office building, a uniformed operator greets you by name in the elevator, manually controls the speed and direction, and announces each floor as you rise. This wasn't 1850. This was 1950s America. Just 70 years ago. A world where entire professions existed that shaped daily life for millions of people. Jobs your kids have never heard of. Careers that were stable, respectable, and provided middle-class incomes. And then, over the course of 2 decades, they vanished. Not slowly, not gradually. They disappeared so completely that most people under 50 don't even know they existed. These weren't minor jobs. In 1950, over 342,000 Americans worked as telephone switchboard operators. Another 90,000 operated elevators. Over half of all milk sold in America was delivered by milkmen who knew every family on their route by name. These were real careers with unions, pensions, and pride. And then automation, refrigeration, and changing consumer habits erased them from American life. This is the story of the jobs your grandparents had that don't exist anymore. The professions that defined 1950s America and disappeared before anyone realized what was being lost. The milkman, America's daily visitor. Every morning in 1950s America, the milkman came. Not sometimes, every single morning. Glass bottles filled with fresh milk appeared on doorsteps across every neighborhood in every city and town. The bottles were heavy, cold from the pre-dawn delivery, with cream separated and floating at the top. You'd shake them to mix the cream back in, pour what you needed, and leave the empties outside for tomorrow's exchange. The milkman wasn't just delivering milk. He was delivering eggs, butter, cream, sometimes orange juice or cottage cheese. He knew which families needed extra on Saturdays for weekend baking. He knew to skip houses when families went on vacation. He knew your kids' names and your dog's temperament. This was his route, his territory, his community. And it was a real career. Milkmen made decent middle-class wages, had union benefits, and could support families on a single income. In 1950, more than half of all milk sold in America came through home delivery. That's millions of milkmen making millions of daily stops. The dairy companies employed drivers, bottlers, route planners, and warehouse workers. It was an entire industry built around the simple fact that milk spoiled quickly and refrigerators weren't universal. But refrigerators were getting better, and supermarkets were getting bigger. By the mid-1960s, families realized they could buy a week's worth of milk at the grocery store and keep it cold at home. The convenience of morning delivery couldn't compete with the lower prices at supermarkets buying in bulk. By 1975, home delivery had dropped to 7% of milk sales. By 2005, it was 0.4%. The milkman, one of America's most iconic professions, had effectively disappeared. What we lost wasn't just a service. It was daily human contact. Someone who checked on elderly neighbors. Someone who noticed when something seemed wrong. Someone who connected communities in ways we didn't appreciate until they were gone. The switchboard operator, the voice that connected everyone. Number, please? If you made a phone call in 1950s America, those were the first words you heard. A woman's voice, professional and efficient, waiting to connect your call. You give her a number. She'd say, "One moment, please," and you'd hear clicking sounds as she physically plugged cables into a massive switchboard, completing the circuit that let your voice travel across town or across the country. In 1950, approximately 342,000 switchboard operators worked for the Bell system and independent telephone companies. Another million worked in private settings, hotels, offices, factories, apartment buildings. This was almost exclusively women's work, considered appropriate because women's voices were thought to be more pleasant and women were believed to be naturally better at service roles. The wages weren't great, but it was respectable work that didn't require college and provided steady employment. Switchboard operators didn't just connect calls. They were information centers, emergency responders, and gatekeepers. In small towns, the operator knew everyone and everything. She'd connect you even if you didn't know the exact number, because she knew who you were trying to reach. During emergencies, she'd coordinate police, fire, and ambulance responses. She'd hold lines open during crisis situations. She was infrastructure made human. The operator sat at massive switchboards with hundreds of jacks and cords, working shifts that required intense concentration. Every incoming call lit up a panel. She'd plug in her headset cord, ask for the number, then plug the caller's line into the correct outgoing jack. Long-distance calls required connecting through multiple operators in different cities, each one manually completing part of the circuit. It was complex, skilled work that looked simple, but required training and experience. Then in 1959, direct dial technology became standard. Automatic switching systems replaced human operators. By the 1970s, automated systems handled almost all routine calls. The operators who remained handled only complicated situations: collect calls, international connections, emergency services. By the 1990s, even those roles were largely automated. An entire profession employing hundreds of thousands of women simply disappeared. What we gained was efficiency and lower costs. What we lost was the human element in communication. The operator who could calm a panicked caller. The voice who knew the right number when you only knew a name. The person who noticed when someone needed help and took action. The elevator operator, the only job completely eliminated by automation step. Into a department store elevator in 1950s New York, Chicago, or San Francisco, and a uniformed operator greeted you. Going up. He pulled the brass lever controlling speed and direction. Second floor, ladies' fashions and housewares. The elevator would lurch upward, slowing as it approached the floor. He carefully aligned the elevator car with the hallway, opened the manual doors with a flourish, and wait for passengers to exit before closing the doors and continuing up. At its peak, over 90,000 Americans worked as elevator operators. They wore uniforms with brass buttons. They announced floors in voices that carried. They chatted with regular passengers and helped elderly customers find their way. It was a skilled position requiring training, attention, and physical coordination. Operators had to judge speed, timing, and positioning by feel. Stop too fast and passengers stumbled. Stop too slow and you'd have to back up. Get the floor alignment wrong and people tripped over the gap. Automatic elevators existed as early as 1900, but people didn't trust them. They seemed dangerous, unreliable, prone to malfunction. Then in 1945, elevator operators in New York City went on strike. Buildings had to switch to automatic operation. And people discovered that automatic elevators worked fine. They were safe. They were simple. Anyone could push a button. The numbers tell the story of the fastest occupational extinction in American history. In 1950, only 12.6% of new elevator installations were automatic. By 1959, just 9 years later, that number had surged to over 90%. By the 1970s, elevator operator was no longer tracked in labor statistics. It's the only occupation from the 1950 census to be completely eliminated by automation. Today, a few historic buildings still employ elevator operators for nostalgia or ambience. The Waldorf Astoria in New York, some luxury apartment buildings. But these are performances of a dead profession, not actual jobs. The operators aren't needed. They're decoration, like gas lights that run on electricity. What we gained was self-service and lower building operating costs. What we lost was human presence in everyday spaces. The operator who greeted you by name. The person who made a routine trip up 10 floors feel like service rather than automation. The full-service gas station attendant, when pumping gas was someone's job. Pull into a gas station in 1950s America and you stayed in your car. A young man in a uniform ran out before you even turned off the engine. "Fill her up?" he'd ask, already unscrewing your gas cap. While the pump ran, he'd check your oil, pulling the dipstick and showing you the level. He'd check your tire pressure with a gauge, adjusting any that were low. He'd wash your windshield, sometimes the side windows too. And when the tank was full, he'd take your payment, make change, and send you on your way with a drive safely. Now, this wasn't luxury service. This was standard. Every gas station operated this way because self-service pumps didn't exist yet. Or where they did exist, customers wouldn't use them. Getting out of your car to pump your own gas seemed ridiculous, even insulting. The attendant's labor was built into the price, and customers expected it. For young men, it was entry-level work that paid reasonably well. Gas station attendants could make decent hourly wages, especially with tips from satisfied customers. Many stations hired teenagers or young men working their way through school. It was physical work, especially in winter or summer, but it was honest employment that required minimal skills and provided immediate income. Self-service gas stations first appeared in the late 1940s, but they didn't catch on. Customers resented doing the work themselves. Why would you pump your own gas when someone would do it for you? But in the 1970s, two things changed. Gas prices skyrocketed during the oil crisis, and labor costs increased. Suddenly, the 5 or 10 cents per gallon saved by pumping your own gas mattered. Customers switched to self-service to save money. By the 1980s, full-service gas stations were disappearing. By the 1990s, they were rare novelties. Today, only New Jersey and Oregon legally require attendants to pump gas, preserving a ghost of the old system. Everywhere else, you pump your own, check your own oil if you even know where the dipstick is, and clean your own windshield with squeegees that barely work. What we gained was lower gas prices and self-reliance. What we lost was service and human connection. The attendant who noticed your tire was low before you did. The kid earning money for college while learning how cars worked. The brief human interaction that made getting gas feel like more than just a transaction. The motion picture projectionist, the hidden hand behind every movie walk into a movie theater in 1950s America. Buy your ticket, find your seat, and wait for the show. The lights dim. The curtain opens. The projector beam cuts through cigarette smoke to hit the screen. And somewhere in a booth above the back row, a projectionist is working. Not just pressing play, actually working, hands constantly moving, eyes watching the screen and the equipment, making sure you see the movie the way it was meant to be shown. In 1950, more than 26,000 Americans worked as motion picture projectionists. This wasn't button pushing. It was skilled labor requiring training, certification in many states, and constant attention. Films arrived on multiple reels, each lasting about 20 minutes. The projectionist had to change reels while the movie was playing, timing the switch so smoothly that audiences never noticed. Watch a 1950s film closely, and you'll see small cue marks in the upper right corner, signals telling the projectionist when to start the next reel. But the technical difficulty went beyond reel changes. Early film stock was nitrate-based, highly flammable, prone to catching fire if the projector's heat lamp overheated. Projectionists had to monitor temperatures, adjust focus continuously as reels warmed and suspended, and be ready to shut down everything instantly if something went wrong. Bad projection could destroy the film. Worse, it could burn down the theater. Then digital projection arrived. The switch happened remarkably fast. In 2005, almost all theaters used film. By 2013, over 90% had switched to digital. Digital projection required no reel changes, no focus adjustments, minimal monitoring. A theater manager could press play and walk away. The projectionist booth became a storage room. The skill, the craft, the art of projection became obsolete overnight. By 2023, only about 10% of projectionists remained on the job, and most of those worked at specialty theaters showing archival prints or maintaining equipment for film festivals. The profession that had employed tens of thousands and required years to master disappeared in less than a decade. What we gained was perfect image quality and lower theater operating costs. What we lost was the human element in presentation. The projectionist who knew exactly when to adjust sound levels for impact. The person who could fix problems mid-show. The craftsperson who took pride in showing films beautifully. The typist and stenographer. The women who turned talk into text in every office, in every business, in every government building in 1950s America, you'd find typists. Rows of desks, each one occupied by a woman sitting at a typewriter, fingers flying across keys with speed and precision that seemed superhuman. These weren't secretaries, though many secretaries typed. These were professional typists, hired specifically to transcribe documents, create copies, format reports, and produce the endless paperwork that made business function. Stenographers worked alongside typists, but with different skills. They sat in meetings, courtrooms, boardrooms, and congressional hearings with steno pads, writing in shorthand as fast as people spoke. Shorthand was its own language, symbols representing sounds and words, allowing stenographers to capture speech at 200 words per minute or faster. After the meeting, they'd transcribe their shorthand into typed documents. Without stenographers, there will be no accurate records of most important business and legal proceedings. These were predominantly female professions, considered appropriate women's work because it required dexterity and attention to detail, traits women were supposedly naturally better at. The real reason was that companies could pay women less for skilled labor due to systematic gender discrimination. But for women in the 1950s, typing and stenography offered real careers. Secretarial schools provided professional training without requiring college. Skilled typists and stenographers made respectable wages, had job security, and could support themselves. Then computers arrived. First word processed in the 1970s and 80s. Then personal computers with word processing software in the 1990s. Suddenly, everyone could type. Documents could be edited, corrected, reformatted without retyping entire pages. Managers began doing their own typing. Lawyers drafted their own briefs. The specialized skill of professional typing became unnecessary because the technology made typing easier. Stenography held on longer in specialized fields like courtrooms and congressional hearings, but even that's disappearing. Digital recording and transcription software can capture speech and convert it to text automatically, though not yet perfectly. The professions that employed hundreds of thousands of women are now historical curiosities. What we gained was flexibility and self-sufficiency. What we lost was an entire career path that didn't require college, but provided stable middle-class employment for women at a time when opportunities were limited. What these jobs had in common: look at these lost professions together and patterns emerge. They were all killed by the same forces: automation, technology, and changing consumer expectations. But more than that, they shared characteristics that defined mid-century American work. They were union jobs with benefits, pensions, and protections. They paid living wages without requiring college degrees. They were stable, predictable careers where you could work the same job for 40 years and retire comfortably. They provided human connection, community knowledge, and personal service that made daily life feel less anonymous. They were also jobs that employed millions of people in what we now call the middle class. The milkman, the switchboard operator, the gas station attendant weren't wealthy, but they weren't struggling. They could afford houses, cars, and raising families on single incomes. That economic reality seems as vanished as the jobs themselves. When we talk about these lost professions, we're not just mourning nostalgia. We're recognizing that automation and efficiency came with costs we didn't fully count. We gained convenience and lower prices. We lost employment for people without college degrees. We gained speed and self-service. We lost human connection and community knowledge. We gained technology that works. We lost jobs that provided dignity, stability, and purpose to millions of Americans. These professions didn't just disappear. They were replaced. And what replaced them isn't always better, just different. And definitely lonelier.